Hello, I am Michael Bear for CNN, and tonight we have a special on immigration. Here I am with Manny Martinez.
Hello, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Manny is a Mexican immigrant from Guadalajara, Mexico, who immigrated to the United States 12 years ago. Mr. Martinez, why did you come to America?
I came to America because it was always known as the land of opportunity. My father left to go across the border when I was a young child. He told me and my mother that when he came back, that he would have a better life for both of us and come get us when he succeeded. He never came back. After my mother passed away, I promised myself that I was going to go to America to find a better life for the both of us, for me and my future children. I wanted my children to have the best education and medical needs possible. It'd be a new beginning for both me and my wife. We both grew up in poverty. We'd get lucky to have one hot meal a week. We did not want our children to go through what we had to go through. We want to put them in a good environment and not have as much violence and poverty as they had to go through, as we had to go through. We were seeking to have a better life for the both of us.
Did you try to legally immigrate to this country?
I did try to legally immigrate to America. To be able to legally immigrate, you need to have a U.S. citizen sponsor you. My sponsor is my future employer, Luke Blackburn, of Blackburn Construction Units. I applied for an employment-based visa and hope to get approved and be able to work in the U.S. Unfortunately, they denied my visa, and I did not get another reason to apply. I had no family in the U.S., so I could not apply for a family-based visa. I also did not have any reason to apply for a refugee or an asylum visa. I was not fleeing the country, and I had no reason to apply for a humanitarian relief visa either. I had no outstanding reason to leave Mexico. I had no way to pay for a visa again because I was poor and whatnot. I was defeated. My chance to coming to America legally were gone, so I knew there had to be another way. That's when I turned to illegal immigration.
How did you illegally cross the border?
I tried to cross the border for 2.5 years before I was finally successful. I started from my hometown of Guadalajara and was deported 6 times by El Migre, or the Mexican police, before I even attempted to cross. Each time I was deported and had to start all the way over. One time I even made it all the way to Ciudad Juarez before El Migre caught me. Each time our journey took almost 2 months to finish. Most of the times I rode on top of trains and was beaten and robbed by bandits several times. It was extremely dangerous to ride on top of trains. I even saw some people get their legs served by the trains. There are also many bandits around the tracks, and it is very treacherous for women because they often get raped. When I reached Mexico City by train, I got off to avoid El Migre and was able to get by the Mexican police, but I was stopped by a famous Mexican gang, MS-13. They beat me up and took all of my money, and I had to make up for my loss. I worked in Mexico City for 3 days and made 160 pesos. This was enough to buy a jacket, since it was getting cold. The next day, I jumped on a train heading to Monte Vista, right off the border of America. When I finally reached the Rio Grande, I had to work to get enough money to pay the smuggler who got me across. My final time I was truly successful. I paid someone called a coyote to smuggle me across the border. He had me and 3 others in the sleeping compartment in the back of his truck. When we got to the border, nerves were high, and I could tell the coyote was nervous. And was nervous too, as we heard him talk to Border Patrol. But we got by quick and easy. After we crossed the border, he took me to El Paso and dropped me off and left without a word. I stayed in abandoned buildings with some other immigrants. Nights were cold, and I always kept an eye out for the police because we were so close to the border we could have got deported easily. We worked at construction with long, grueling hours with little pay. After months in America, I have only made over $200. I moved town to town frequently. Friends were being caught by the police and sent back to Mexico every day. But after 3 months, I finally had enough to pay to rent a cheap apartment.
At 8:45 a.m. on Tuesday, September 11, 2001, an airplane hijacked by Al-Qaeda suicide terrorists flew into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Firefighters, policemen, spectators rushed to the scene to help the people who were victimized by what was thought to be a freak accident at the time. 18 minutes later, another hijacked airplane hit the South Tower. On this same day, Al-Qaeda flew another plane into the Pentagon on Washington, D.C. A total of 19 suicide terrorists caused our nation to be changed forever. Many changes came in the form of safety at airports and on airplanes, but the biggest change was on immigration. After the attacks on the World Trade Center, President George W. Bush called for a war on terror. The war on terror was meant to eliminate terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda. After calling for the war on terror, President Bush signed the USA Patriot Act. This act enabled law enforcement to use wiretaps to listen in on suspicious people. Law enforcement could also arrest someone thought to be a terrorist without a warrant. This led to racial profiling and immigrants being wrongly arrested. Thank you for listening to today's broadcast. This is Michael Bear signing off. Have a gnarly night, America.
Wait, you're still illegal. Oh.